Hi, Peter. Thank you very much to accept my interview. Now, please introduce yourself to the audience.
Okay, thank you. My name is Peter and I am a historian. I studied the modern history and I am from the Slovakia, which is the country in the Central Europe. And it's the former part of the former Czechoslovakia, which split in 1992, 3 years after the fall of the communism in our country.
Oh, it's very interesting. Now, I want to ask you a question. Why in your country the Communist parties lost their support?
You know, this is quite a complicated question. In my opinion, in fact, the Communist Party didn't have even the support in my country before. You know, for example, the last elections in Czechoslovakia, before the communists took the power, or before the Communist Party take power. And in the Slovakia, for example, there were two strong parties. The one was called by the Democratic Party, which has 62% of voters, you know, and just 30% of people vote for the Communist Party.
Oh,
and
you had
the only one period when the Communist Party in my country was quite popular, it was in 1968 during the transformation of the regime, which was called the communism with a human face. And actually, this day, 21st of the August, we commemorate the Soviet occupation, because this socialism with a human face, they try to improve regime, you know, and they make the democratization of the regime, and the Soviet Union responded by the occupation and sent the Warsaw armies into the Czechoslovakia, you know. So only in the 1968 was the only time when the Communist Party has the support in the society. Of course, there were the support but only by the minority of the people.
Okay, I'm wondering, when you mentioned about the vote, means there is another party.
But it was just in 1946. When the communists took power in 1948, they changed the regime, you know, and it was just the one-party regime. You know.
Only
it was
Communist
ruling
Party.
by the Communist Party, yes, it is right.
Okay,
but before the communists coup d'etat, or before they took the power, there were also the other parties, political parties. Right?
And the people have the right to vote?
Just part of the people, not the whole society, because it was after the Second World War, but the majority of people can vote. Okay,
so you mentioned that because most people don't vote for the Communist Party.
Yes, that's right. In Slovakia.
So they lost their power, and then changed to another party, became the democracy.
No, it was. In the 1968, the situation was that there were the elections, but in fact, the Slovakia, as a part of the Czechoslovakia, were liberated by the Soviet Union, by the Red Army. In fact. And you know, there were the convention or the accords in the Yalta, for example, and the Soviet Union and the Czechoslovakia became the Czechoslovakia became part of the so-called Soviet Eastern Bloc of the countries, you know. So communism was slowly taking the power, but still there were the elections. And during the election in Slovakia, the Communist Party lost. But in fact, in the 2 years, by the, I may say, the measurement of the power, of the political power, they took the power and created the government which was ruled by the communists. Okay. It is called the coup d'etat.
So, according to your message, I can understand that in your country, there are still media freedom, some part freedom. The media, can I say, the media fully service to the Communist Party, or they have the freedom, like some private or only works?
When the communists took the power in 1948, they started to create the society by its own. You know, they tried to make a communist society. Yeah. And one of the steps, of course, was the total control of the media. You know. So after they took the power in 1948, the media became very quickly. The media became just a tool of the Communist Party. and there were no opposition media except of 1968. That was only one exception. But in the other years of the communist rule in the Slovakia, the media were under the control of the Communist Party, and of course they were ruling the strong censorship.
You mentioned that after 1963?
68.
68?
The 68 was the exception because it was the attempt for the reform of the communist regime, which is known as the socialism with a human face. This 1 year is exception, but except of this year, 1968, the 40 years of the communism, the media were under the control of the party and under the censorship.
How about you after, for example, 1968 until to 1989?
Yes.
How much freedom of the media?
Well, there were no freedom of the media.
No, any freedom.
Any freedom of the media.
Okay.
The only one media were in the Slovakia, for example, there were the media like the broadcasting companies which were broadcasting from the West.
Okay.
I mean the Radio Free Europe, for example, or for the people in the Slovakia, because Slovakia is quite a religious country, we are the Christians. It was the Vatican Radio, which was the voice of the Pope, for example. So these were the medias, but not in the communist countries. Their media were abroad, behind the Iron Curtain. But the media in the Slovakia or in the Czechoslovakia, they were under the control of the communist party.
But if at that time, before the Communist Party's fall, before 1989, is your country's people can reach the media from outside, for example, from another country or from the Westerner, if they can have the foreigner newspaper, radio.
No newspaper, but it was possible, but it was not easy. But it was possible to listening the foreign radio station.
Oh.
But it was not easy because there were radiogenic.
Okay, so if people give different voice, for example, they critique the government at that time, what the government will give them the punishment? Everyone, if they against or oppose the government's policy, will set in the jail, or what the punishment
it was,
with a different voice?
It was very different because the communist regime it had its development. In the 1950s, it was really the hard period. It was really the period of the very harsh persecutions. I mean, people were sending to the jail, people were even killed, people were sending into the forced labor camps, and so on and so on. But during the 70s and 80s, the regime was quite different, and I may say that the persecution quite shifted. It was, of course, some people were sent even to the jail, but the persecution were like they will sack you from your job, for example, and so on and so on. So the persecution became much more in the social sphere than the physical persecution, like sending into the jail, tortured, killed, and so on and so on. It was typical for the 50s. But for the 70s and 80s, the persecution were like the social persecution, as I said, sacking from the job. Your children were not allowed to study at the university, for example, and this kind of persecution.
Okay, so after from 1978 to 1999, to during this time, if people against the government's oppose government policy and their children doesn't allowed to go to the university. And how about the person?
Several cases.
In several cases, not very universal.
It was not very universal, but also the critique against the regime was not in great extent. There were only some people who criticized the regime openly. So the other people were just sitting and criticized the regime, but just in their families, not publicly.
Okay, another question is about the army, the military.
Okay.
How at that time when the Communist Party ruled your country, how the party control the military? They fully control? They say the military belong to the party or belong to the nation?
They fully control the military, but the military is the quite special case, because the Slovakia, as a part of Czechoslovakia, we were the part of the Soviet bloc, and in the Soviet bloc there were it was called the Warsaw Treaty, and this Warsaw Treaty was in fact the military pact, and it was the military pact led by the Soviet Union, And the Czechoslovak People's Army, which was the official name of the Czechoslovak Army, was part of the Warsaw Pact. So this was the one tool of the control of the army, and of course the second one was the direct influence of the Communist Party, because in fact when you want to be the general or the higher officer, you should be the member of the Communist Party.
But the leader, the top leader of the Communist Party is not the top leader of the army, so the different people,
yes,
right?
Of course, but the top leader of the army in the Czechoslovakia was the president.
Okay.
Actually, the president used to be the very high official of the Communist Party. Once again, this was the difference during the 60s, but for example, in 1975, once again, the position of the president of the republic and the general secretary of the Communist Party, it was the two positions, but in fact, it was only one man who was both the president, as well the general secretary of the Communist Party.
Okay, could I repeat if I got the right message? Means the president of the country and is also the chairman of the party,
That's right.
but is not the chairman of the military committee. The commander of the military is another person. They are not the same person.
Of course, the commanding of the army is quite complicated, but the head, I may say, from the formal point of the view, the head commander of the army in our country was the president. It was the head of the army. Of course, there was the general staff led by the soldiers, but from the formal point of view, the head of the army was the president.
Okay, but I mean, it's just take the title, or he has a real power, the force. For example, if I'm the president, by the name, I'm also the head of the military, right?
Yes, that's right.
And you are the commander of the military. And I can control you. You have to obey to me, or
Yes,
it's just
you have to obey because the president is the head of the army.
Oh, okay.
And of course, there were the other very influential persons, like was the Minister of the Defense.
Okay.
And as well the member of the Communist Party, and the people in the general staff were also the members of the Communist Party, and so on.
So, but for example, at that moment in 1989, okay, and the president still takes the power of the head of the army, and when the protests threatened, the people asked him to dismiss his position.
Yes.
He didn't send the order to ask the soldiers to kill people.
No,
in reality, he can. He has the ability.
Yes, but he didn't do it.
He didn't do it.
Yes,
And how do you think about it? You have told me that because he feared people will get punished. Why? Because Chinese.
The
president sent the soldiers.
Because it was the same year when the Chinese were the Tiananmen Square.
Exactly.
The situation in the Czechoslovakia was quite different because, firstly, the Communist Party was really on its decline in our country, which means that the situation in the country was not very good from the economic point of view, from the, I may say, the environmental disaster, violation of the human rights, iron curtain on the borders with the Western countries, and so on and so on. So many problems were in the Czechoslovakia, and the people accused the Communist Party from the way of the ruling.
Okay.
So the people was not very happy with the ruling of the Communist Party. So this is the first, I may say, the problem. The second one, and the Communist Party were not popular among the society, because people was angry with such a rule. The second and also very important reason is that Czechoslovakia were part of the Soviet bloc, and the leader country was the Soviet Union. But in those times, during the late 80s, there were Mikhail Gorbachev was leader of the Soviet Union, and his policy was quite different. He said, "Look, we will not make repressions. We will make the perestroika. We will make the glasnost." And that was the reason why the situation was quite peaceful, even in the Czechoslovakia, because the Czechoslovak communists used to obey the Soviet communists, because there was such a relationship. The Soviet Union was the head, and the Czechoslovak communists used to obey. And when the Soviet Union said, look, we will not support you when you will go against your own people, then the Czechoslovak communists say, okay, we don't have any chance, so we will abandon.
Oh, so
there were two factors. The international one, which was the perestroika, glasnost, Gorbachev, because he understood that he lost the Cold War, so he abandoned as well the neighboring countries, Poland, Hungary, German Democratic Republic, and so on and so on. So the international context was that the communism was falling down in the Eastern Europe. So even the communist higher officers and higher party members can clearly see that the communism is falling down. So this was the first factor, and the second one was that the general population were among the Communist Party, and they were, of course, as well afraid of what can happen, because people were really angry during the late 80s.
But I wonder in one question, you say many people angry to the Communist Party for their bad leader, for their poor economic development. But how people know this? You see, the media was controlled. So the media was not supposed to tell the truth.
Okay, they were the control, but the control was not so strict during the late 80s. As I said, it was the time when Gorbachev said, look, now it is the perestroika, now it is the glasnost, so the media control was not so strong. And as I said, during the late 80s, it was the different situation, because, for example, the Western radio station were jamming during the period of communism, but this stopped in 1988. So the situation were changing. In general, I would say. And of course, when you are not happy with the economic development, you clearly see it on your environment. It's very visible.
But I don't really think economic crash will cause a revolution. Look like North Korea. It's so very poor. So many people die in the famine, but they still take power.
Okay, but it's a completely different situation, because the regime in the Czechoslovakia was never even similar to the regime in the Northern Korea, also the European traditions and so on and so on are quite
the
different.
environment, but the North Korean close to China, unfortunately.
We were also close to the Soviet Union, but in general, the people in the Slovakia or in the Czech Republic or even in the Central Europe, they are, in fact, the Western people. They are Christians, and they got the huge tradition of the humanism, Christianity, and so on and so on. So in their mind, they are the Western people.
What their religion is? Christian?
Yes, they are Christian religion, Catholic. Roman Catholics is the dominant religion, but also the evangelic. I don't know the English translation.
I know. That's very important.
Yes, that's right. And of course, even when you were asking about the opposition, so the opposition in Slovakia, they were mostly the Christians, who were protesting against the non-existence of the religious freedoms. That was the problem in Slovakia.
That is what I want to ask, but you already answered my question, is how do you think the international influence to people to finally, because as you see, Communist Party, they take the military, they are very strict, and the people went on the street to give the protests. Have ever people was killed?
I'm not sure that during the late 80s were someone killed. I guess that not. But of course there were the public protests. Yes, that's right. For the violation of the religious freedom, for the violation of the human rights. There were protests in the Prague and in the Bratislava as well, So
after 1989, last question. After 1989, how about the president? He was resigned and dismissed.
You mean the communists?
The president of the Communist Party. He lost his position.
Yes, he lost his position, and I may say that it was the process, it was the democratization to the democracy, because the change from the communism to democracy, it takes the year, because you need to transform economy, legal processes, you need to create the political parties, and of course you need to change the mind of the people. This is maybe the most important switch you need to make. So this is the process. It takes several years, of course. But the Communist Party were just a political party. They stay as a party, and they were
still plays a role as official, just like
in Slovakia,
change to different transactions.
Yes, they changed the officials, and they were the party like you got the political parties in the democratic system. Various parties.
Okay.
There are elections, and people can elect for the Communist Party. It's no problem.
Okay. It's just they changed their name. They say, okay, it's the same. It's still. But we have to hear.
Okay.
You mean they still take the position, but okay, not really same position, but they still play their role.
Yes,
serving the country.
They play the huge role because they transform its power from the political field to the economic field.
Okay.
Many of the former communists stay in the economic field, I may say.
Okay.
So they are now the people who are.
We still continue.
Okay, they are now businessmen, for example. The former communists are their children and so on.
Okay, thank you very much, Peter. Thank you for
welcome.
accepting my interview, and thank you for your help.
You're welcome.